Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone 1 minute, no, just ticked 2 minutes past midday, making it the same time UTC. A huge shout out to everybody that's live with us today, as well as everybody that watches this on catch up. What a fantastic time to be alive and to be in crypto. So, what an exciting close to the weekend. KRN88NL. Hello, my friend ZX Robin. Geo, my man. How are we all doing today? Maybe a little bit slow on the uptake, trickling in as we speak at the moment. Just waiting to see a few more faces come and slip through. So, how is everybody doing? How was everybody's weekend? Calvo, hello, mate. So just going to give you a few minutes, quite a few people starting to stream in at the moment. Then we're going to really crack on with what's going to be a very, very aggressive session because we have got, a lot to cover. Norbert, hello, my friend, and welcome. Yeah, happy new all-time high, everybody. Lovely sentiment there, ZX Robin. What an exciting time, right? What an exciting time. Now, we're as always, right, we're going to find a balance between the euphoria along with the data as well, all right? So while I want everybody to be absolutely over the moon with what we've achieved here, that a lot of us would have been in this industry for a long, long time, right? Watching this, fighting the good fight, watching lots of things get rejected, watching constant speculation coming out of the depths of a really kind of nuclear winter of a bear market and into these conditions. We are absolutely going to take a look at BTC dominance today as well, my friend. In fact, one of the first things that I'm going to start with on here as well. And Norbert, of course we can, mate. We'll take a look at sushi. Even the thought of sushi is making me hungry today. There we go. Matthew, hi from sunny Yorkshire, one of my favourite places in the world, God's country up there. My friend was there a couple of times this year, actually kind of in and around Whitby, a little bit further up around the coast there. Honestly, if anybody wants to come and visit the UK, London's awesome. But if you really want to see, some of the very best and finest, you've got to get yourself up to Yorkshire. And we can absolutely have a look at Link, my friend. Let's pop that one on here as well. So far, what I want to cover for the show is BTC dominance. We got to take a look at ETH as well. There's a really exciting digital marketing company, Tokenized, that's come in, which I've been really, really, really impressed with, that we've covered a few weeks ago, called Alchemy. They've got their token ADS. I want to take a look at that for you as well. That's found itself in a really nice consolidation range, and one of those rare kind of projects that hasn't really had that big rip yet. And I think we're going to see that RWA narrative come in quite hot again. We also had a request come in for let me just take a look which one it was. MCRT as well from Nyala, who very kindly requested this on Twitter. So we're going to take a look at that. Then we're going to take a look at sushi, and we're going to take a look at Link as well. Poor swap, I'm not too sure, Berman. IOTA later, Daniel. Yeah, we certainly can. I remember this was a real key favorite many years ago. A really, really, really kind of old school ticker. I remember trading this with a few people now that are massive on Twitter, and we used to just degen our way around with the IOTA token years ago. So I think we're probably just going to crack on, guys. I don't know why the numbers are so low today on the thing. Maybe people are getting tired of listening to me rattle on about these conditions, or maybe people just weren't well enough or properly exposed. But we're going to cover all the markets. We're going to cover the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? In the terms, and what do I mean by that? Well, let's just start on Bitcoin quickly. So here we obviously have the Bitcoin chart. Was very vocal about this inside bar range for a while now, right? With this being the mother bar, the larger candle, this candle that sits within its range being the inside bar, and they form two ranges. Think of this as a range within a range. If you want to know more about that, then you can find an education thread pinned to the top of my Twitter, which is BC_Richfield. So, okay, you can find that on there, pinned to the top of the Twitter, teaches you about the inside bar. However, all we're looking at with any kind of range play is if we deviate. Yeah, so for example, this area here, what you'll notice is price comes underneath, steps back into the range. We then target the far side of the range. Now, what was true about that, we saw this one fail here. We had the deviation of the inside bar range. We stepped back inside. However, price was just too strong, right? And what we ultimately did is we came down, reacted here at this bullish gap, and that led price to have further expansion. Now we're outside of this range, and we can see in the daily, we've not just closed outside of this range, right? Remembering, just get rid of that for a moment. Let's not forget here as well, right? What we've got resistance, 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 resistance. Then look at this break here. Now, the only reason that I really want to preach a little bit of caution here, all right, is that any time, as you will see with any range, when you have a key liquidity taken from range high, range low, from a key high or a key low, right, we can often encounter a corrective phase before we see price settle. All right, so what do I mean by that? I did save these, right? So just humor me for a minute, right? And let's just take a look at this. Forget about this for a minute. I'm going to show you this on the other time frame. Although even still, if you look to kind of highlight the key area of these wicks, you can see how we just had such a key resistance area here, right? We've now had that strong close above. I had got no problem at all with price coming back and retesting this area before we go higher. Hey, Nick, how you doing, buddy? So Ludwig, hello, mate. Welcome back. So let's just look at this in context. What happened here, right? So when price came and took out the high that was set over here, if you look back over here for the data, so we came out, took out a very key high. What did we see? Price run very hot, and then we closed back underneath that high, Price then came back underneath. We kind of stuttered in this area. We then had this corrective move. Now, these moves are often designed in a way to get people to start shorting this market. What it does is then builds a larger pool of liquidity down there to allow buyers to get involved and to continue with the trend. Because look, there's zero doubt, right, that we're in a big uptrend. If you've got any doubt about that, grab yourself a membership, come and get B Pro. Right, this is our in-house indicator. It's got a million things that it can do. It's a standalone trading system. You can use divergence systems, moving averages, baselines, smart trailer. We've got divergence systems that kind of work out, I think, 10 or 11 different oscillators and then take an average of those oscillators and then put it into a tradable signal, right? So, for example, if I put my labels back on at the moment, what we can see is look at the divergences. Wasn't this amazing as we were having these pumps, The divergences more often than not tell you where the corrective phase is before continuation, right? So we just take a look back here. This called the bottom, then corrective phase. This then called continuation, corrective phase, corrective phase, corrective, 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 continuation. Notice how you get those continuation divergences when price engages with this smart trailer, all right? So even if you kind of take these out of the system, now we still need to wait for today to close before this is a confirmed divergence, right? Like with anything, you have to wait for these closes. Let me just get rid of that. But one of the things that I'm always doing here is I'm always consulting B Pro. If they're ever in a point where it's choppy or there's anything going on, I want to move to a daily. I want to understand that I'm with the trend. And if you're somebody that struggles with that, then obviously this is really, really helpful to have a tool like this. So either way, it's just to kind of give yourself a slap sometimes and say, I'm still bullish. All right. So just because we might be correcting here doesn't mean that I think this is going to Hades. Just means that price, naturally has these expansions, corrections, expansions, corrections, expansions, corrections, expansions. Now what we can highlight is that we've got a really key area here where we've got a lot of confluence saying, okay, maybe this is the area we retest. Then we look to build positions from here, or maybe we're coming down a little bit lower. Let me show you. So for me, this was such a key area, this, even if we kind of get rid of the inside bar again. Yeah, this area here, look, really, really, really simple. Resistance here to begin with, then support. Close below, retest, price sells off, all right? Resistance, resistance, yeah? Resistance all the way through here until, and we had this move here, this little bit of a fake out, and I said on Twitter, if you go back and look at my Twitter account, I said the one thing I don't like about this breakout here is, yes, we've got a candle close, but when I say a strong close or a full-bodied close, yeah, I want to see a candle that has very little upside wick. The upside wick is telling me there's absorption there, same as we saw with this wick here, same as we saw with this wick here, right? Now, for me, what I want to see is a candle much more like this one, this big, full-bodied candle, all right, the close that came above from here. Then all I'm saying to myself is, okay, have we created a gap? Have we created an order block here? And what we can see is we created this big, beautiful, bullish gap. And this here is where we can position for that expansion, all right? So just keeping that in mind. Now, I know we've kind of shot down here to the hourly. Let's just kind of go back to the 4 hour quickly. You can even see on here, yeah, the resistance from the wicks here. Then you get that close again. You can see, look, just a long upside wick. We took liquidity here, so see price come back down. If it gets back above, you just got to say to yourself, look, really, really simple. If you've got a key area of support and resistance, price can deviate that area. So let's just say, for example, we look at, let's just say, for example, this, right? So we're looking across this area here and we're saying to ourselves, right, look, we've got a key point here, okay? In fact, you can probably even extend it up onto these wicks here, but, you know, semantics. Even if we're allowing for these here, resistance, 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 yeah, what happens? Price closes above here. Again, look at the upside of the candle. Look at the body. Yeah, no real upside wick here, certainly not a long one. It's not telling you that there's absorption here, yeah, that you're going into an area of supply and that sellers are pushing this back down to fair value. Then you revisit this area here, look at this wick and how well respected this is. So if you get caught offside here, like this, for example, this strong close through here made me believe that price was going to come back down for this level here, yeah. Ultimately, we didn't reach that here, but we still had a great intraday the following day when we got closed below here. We still had the best part of a 1.3% move. Intraday, that's absolutely fine. Now, what happened is when this area that we know is support and resistance, this acting as really great support here, when price closes underneath this, you want to see the retest off of resistance. And it starts well by the long upside wick, but then look at this candle. Long downside wick, big full body closure. My good friend and one of the most exceptional range traders I've ever known, Trader Dank, would tell you this exact thing. If this, yeah, is showing weakness because it's closed outside, if that weakness is to be confirmed, then quite simply, we expect to see a rejection here and price go lower. What you don't expect is to see price close back in the range like we do here, because that confirms this, as our dear friend will tell you, and someone I learned a lot from in this industry, SZ, Trader SC, this is your deviation. Price has now climbed back inside. We now look for our liquidity targets from the highs. Yeah, and we can see that that's beautifully embodied within this resistance zone. So it allows us to trade it to this area until we get that confirmation of those breakouts, right? And when we get those confirmations, that's when we understand it's basically looking at market auction theory, all right? So you're looking at where is fair value. When price typically gets into these ranges, it's considered pretty much that that's considered fair value for that. You often obviously see these happen after you have these big expansion phases. Yeah. So, I mean, we were in this huge downwards channel for a long time. Then ultimately people collectively made a decision that Bitcoin was undervalued there. So then we get these expansion moves and then we look for these consolidations. Now we're in this consolidation shown by our inside bar pattern, as well as other patterns you can use. You know, you can use, we have some fantastic traders at the Nest, people like Razoon and stuff like that, for example, who, you know, we use volume profile, etc. It basically, however, and what speaks to you, but you're looking for these value areas, right? If this is value area low and this is value area high, What have we done here? We've closed outside of this now. We're seeing price action move to the upside. What have we done? Set a higher high, set a higher low. Ultimately, we close above resistance. And this gives you your indication that price is moving pretty strongly at that point and that we're looking for new highs. So where does it leave us? Well, quite simply, we're now in price discovery mode, okay? So if I'm looking here and I'm saying, okay, where was the last kind of manipulation leg lower, if you like, even if we look, we can see this move down and then the expansion. If I use my standard deviations here, it isn't perfect actually. It's a little bit of a small move. This one probably, you know, where it took the swing low is a little bit more accurate. So we're going to look at both and see if we can find some confluence. I always target between the 2 and the 2.5, all right? So this here we can see gives us our little midline at 2.25, all right? So I started actually drawing that in, which makes a lot of sense. Extended targets for me are up towards 4. If we look at this leg, however, we can see this leg here, because we swept liquidity from the high, we also swept liquidity from the low here. So this is the manipulation leg lower, right? That's where we've come down to take liquidity to trap people, trap short sellers. You get that squeeze, then you get the expansion. We can see again, pretty much to the, you know, pretty much to the dime, we've taken out that 2.25. So we can use standard deviations. You can use Fibonacci extensions, all of these things to kind of project targets. You know, even if you consider this a range, right, high to low, then you can ultimately, you know, even if you allow just for the range parameters here, you can look for that and you can say, okay, 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations is here. So it seems like this has got some room to run. Okay, now we're going to take a look at Ethereum in a minute as well. But for me, if I was looking to position myself here, I would be looking at something like this. All right. I would ideally like to see this retested, and then I would like to see something like this to just show us that we've really got confirmation here that this area is now support. However, as we know, especially with cryptocurrency and especially with Bitcoin, this thing can really just run hot, okay? So what I'm going to do is, my plan is to monitor these key areas, all right? So just label this one up here. We've got our 4-hour gap, our H4. So if I'm looking at this expansion leg from low to higher, and it definitely help if I get the right tool. So just using my Fibonacci here, right? Retracements, just going to set this to a standard one here. And I'm looking at the golden pocket down here and I'm saying, okay, or maybe for price to just dip back down the 50%, just so if we're looking at this as an idea of risk to reward or premium versus discount, you know, we want to be buyers in a discount. The discount range is the lower 50% here. We also know where our key levels are here. Now, if I'm looking at this more from a levels perspective, then being here at the 0.5 is really interesting, but also the 0.75. Now, as we start to approach these levels here, we can see we're coming into this key support, right? Again, remember, resistance, 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 resistance. Price closes above. We get that confirmation. So let's see if we get that retest down here. But ultimately, if I'm looking for intraday positions as well, I'm still looking to be pretty active in here. I'm not going to lie. Bitcoin can run really, really hot in these situations. So I'm saying to myself here, all right, look, we've just closed the 4-hour candle. All right, so if we go back to the 4-hour quickly, we can see that we still have 3 hours and 40 minutes left of this. So what's my narrative? My narrative is really, really clear. We're in bullish market conditions. We've got a bullish fair value gap that we're delivering from. I move down here to an hourly and I say, okay, what catalysts do we have here on the hourly? Well, we can see, and I won't keep this on the chart, we can see we have the overlaid hourly gap giving us confluence here as well. If we wait for the hourly close here in 40 minutes, if we wanted that little bit of extra confirmation, if we have a bearish gap here, as it is at the moment, one of my favorite plays is to wait for that gap to be inverted, meaning that we get a bullish candle or a bullish candle close above or a candle close above. That will then turn purple, and that will then signal to me that this area that should have acted as resistance has now actually closed above, and we watch this act as support, right? And that's where we look to position ourselves for long trades. Okay, so that's definitely one way that we can looking at that. Jojo Lee, hello mate. Sorry, let me just take a quick look at some of the comments here as well. I'm sure I've missed some of you coming in. Erica, our wonderful Erica, how are we doing? Namsu from Namsu Coin, are we? Okay, mate, well, let's see if we can find it. If it's listed on TradingView, we'll take a look for you. Jojo Lee, my friend, missed it by 13 minutes. That's all right, mate. You get to catch up and all of that. Doge as well. Yeah, good suggestion. I love Doge very much. A long-term Doge holder as well. So there we go. Smash the like button, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Candle closes outside of the range. Okay. Are there any set rules for deviation? Great question. Really great question. So something that I always consider anyway, ZX Robin, is this. And let me show you. The one other thing I'd just say on this before we close on, then we're going to look at Robin's question, is this. The lowest time frame I would look for a resurgence here would be the 15-minute. I tell you for why. We've got a lot of confluence, yeah, that below us, for some reason, all that stuff must have. Let me just do this quickly. I must have got cocky at some point and started messing about with the visual settings on these. So let me just, let's get these, see if we can get these set back onto the minutes as well. Right, there we go. So what I would be looking at here is I would want to see some kind of structure recovery here, all right? So this high, you want to see a move through here with momentum. Yeah, you want to see displacement. Again, coming back to these kind of candle body closes that we were just talking about there. For me, it's really, really simple, Jen. If we take any key level of support and resistance, so let's just for argument's sake take this level. Yeah, so we're not cherry picking, and I'm going to have to turn off your wonderful indicator here, Gio, I'm afraid. Always pains me to do so. But let's get rid of that for a minute. Let's look at this. So this is our key resistance, right? So what do we want to see? When price came up into here, yeah, look, you're never going to be right all the time trading. And one of the worst things you can do is to try and be right all the time. It will just be an absolute disaster. Trust me. Where were we here? I think. What did I save this as? Was it? It was not that. I'm sure I just created a new range. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Let me just pop that on there with the levels. And then I'm just going to turn this off for a second just to give it a little bit of extra clarity here, all right? So quite simply, if we're just breaking this down into a range, we've got our low to high of the expansion. We're watching these areas to see if they hold. Now, on any of these areas, if you break out of them with volume, and I don't mean about using volume down here or OBV, etc. What I'm looking for is, say this level here, for example, you really can't see any full-bodied candles closing below this. What you can see are the long downside wicks. It tells you that price is finding absorption here, that buyers are stepping in and they're buying up these dips. So then the likelihood is that you're moving to the next level. Now, if we look at the next level, what would have really been quite a tricky one here is this breakout candle. I'm not interested in this because it's got a long upside wick. That's good. It's still a bearish candle, right, in terms of the close, but the long downside wick tells me we're starting to get absorption. This candle here would have told me that price is looking to reach for at least this high. All right. Now, why is that? Because we closed above this level. Chances are that means price now seeking the next available liquidity. So my first target would be here, and my second target would be here. All right, aligned with that high. Now, let's say I'm wrong here. Then typically I'll be in and out pretty quickly on these trades anyway. So it's normally kind of a break-even scenario. But let's say we lost that trade. Yeah. We're wrong here. It doesn't matter because the information that it gives you is priceless, because when we close back in here, yeah, then we know, okay, what is this? That's the deviation of that level. Price shouldn't be closing back in here if it's got strength to come back up. It should be retesting this area, and then the buyers should be stepping in. So while you might lose 1R here, you might make 1, 2, 3R on this move down. All right. Then when we get to our next key level, what we do is we reassess. So we look at this here, for example, yeah, so on and so forth. Deviation when price closes back in here, we expect higher prices. Ultimately, what happens? We don't get that because price then breaks down. When we close back below this level, we see the weakness. We either look to get entries on this line to trade lower, or for extra confirmation, which I like to do, is we look for our bearish gaps or order blocks or areas that we can be buyers and sellers. So for example, as we broke out of this, we set this bullish order block. When we broke back in the range here, Yeah, the up close candle, when we close below it here, we set the bearish order block, telling us that price has now created that blocker here that we shouldn't see price come back above, then we trade it lower. One thing we notice with the break back inside the range here is we failed to confirm an order block or a gap, right? It's this breakdown here that we created, this gap and this gap here, that ultimately set price lower. Okay, so it doesn't matter what time frame you're on. When you see range highs, when you see breakouts, when you see key levels, you want to see price having those full body closures. You know, look at the candles. The candles are just psychological, like just psychology on a chart. You know, that's why we trade these gaps, because there's so much buying strength coming in here that we leave an inefficiency in price delivery. That's why we get these gaps. So then we look at these gaps and say, okay, look, if everyone was hella bullish in here, bullish enough that basically orders couldn't get paired because the buying coming in so quickly, when the market looks to rebalance this area, if we can confirm the buyers are here, which they should be, ultimately we expand higher. All right. Then that's why we look for violations of those areas as well, you know, for price to go a little bit weak. Ewan, how you doing, mate? Good to see you on there. Naughty corner for Jojo. Agreed, Calvo. We might let him off today because it's Monday, but we'll see. ETH is still ranging. We're going to move on to ETH in a moment. Then we're going to crush that one out of the park as well. Bitcoin holding up nicely above 103,500. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if we're looking at this as the range, like we said, I think we've got this, the 0.75 level often comes in very, very useful. That's at 103.63. All right, so I think that's definitely something that we want to be aware of here, as well as the fact that we're holding this higher time frame gap. Yeah, let's not get too carried away. This is just a 15-minute, but remember, if we want this kind of confirmation, if you want to know if this is strong enough to warrant stepping back into, then for me there's a few things that we want to consider here, right? I think we want to consider the fact that, you know, we've got, even on the daily scale here, right? Sorry, it's on the 4. You know, we've got this untested order block sat down here on the 4 hour. The way that I look at markets is I always expect the unexpected, right? I always expect to, you know, always look, sorry, not expect. I always look to take both arguments from both sides, all right? Because as we look at these here, I'm saying to myself, all right, well, what are the arguments for price just tearing people's faces off today and leaving it so that nobody can get involved because everyone wants a pullback? That's definitely one side of the argument. So what if we get that scenario? Quite simply, price still needs to take off from somewhere. We're still looking for a low to be swept or a gap to be delivered from. So while we've got the gap here, I'm saying to myself, all right, if price wants to melt faces from here, let's look at that. Then let's zoom that into a lower time frame and say, what do we want to see? Well, we want to see a low swept. We want to see a strong impulse recovery. And then ultimately, once we've taken liquidity from the lows and we've shifted structure to the upside, we have the perfect opportunity to long. And we know exactly where we're wrong because we have clear invalidation, right? So that all of a sudden becomes where we know. And we say to ourselves, what if we're wrong? Well, we're just wrong, guys. You know, unfortunately, the whole point of trading is that you can't be right all the time. And, you know, getting used to that will help your profitability considerably, right? But we just look for that low time frame pattern within this area here, and we say to ourselves, okay, if price is ready to go, price is ready to go. Let's look at that as a very quick example, and then we're going to rip through the charts, all right? So when price came up and we had this move here, we had this expansion, we set a really large order block in here when we closed above here, right? So let me draw that in for you. Now, just forgetting about this resistance area here for a moment, right? This was the initial stage, was when we closed above this. Now, I've got no problem. Once we set that, I'm simply saying to myself, all right, I want to see the 50% of this respected. Now, for me personally, I take that from the high of the body down to the low of the wick for a bullish one. Yeah, the opposite for bearish. Just going to put this on a more simple one here. And then I'm just saying to myself, are we starting to look like price is getting weak and closing below the 50%? Because if the buying is strong, I expect it to be done in the upper 50% of any order block, especially one of this kind of size. So all of a sudden, I've got confluence here. Price is holding. I can see the low downside wicks. So where do I want to be a buyer? Well, quite simply, I just want to be a buyer in here, right? So I'm then just going on to a lower time frame and I'm saying, okay, well, what gives me that impetus? Yeah, what gives me that, you know, where's the impulse here? Where's price driving down? All right. Have we taken out this high here? No. You know, we want to see liquidity taken first. So the first point at which we take liquidity is here. Yeah, this is the key area. Price comes down, sweeps liquidity. Do we take out this high? No, we don't. Price then takes liquidity again here, actually from equal lows, which is an even bigger liquidity pool. I then look left and notice that not only have I got an aligned bullish gap here, yeah, so on the 15-minute, I've got a bullish gap here. I know we're delivering here from support. We're within a 4-hour order block. All of these bullish factors are kind of compounding. So then ignore this because this is just a box to show where we want to be long from. But then from in here, I just quite simply say to myself, all right, let's say, for example, we want to take a breaker entry or we want to take an expansion entry. We'll look at both here. We've got every ingredient we need. And if we want confirmation, we're simply waiting for this. Quite an old school man. Anybody that used to maybe learn from me maybe 3-4 years ago will kind of see this, the old breaker line that we used to use, right? Which is taking the high that sweeps liquidity. You then want to see price close above that here. And then you can be a participant here on this line. We would just set when the candle closes above here, you would set a limit order on here. You would find the prior swing low, which is this one here. And then, or, you know, you might want to be a little bit safer and put it down to there. That's fine. Understand what your upside targets are. And then you could be a participant there. You could forget about that. You could take the breaker candle itself. Yeah. So what is the breaker candle? Well, it's this here. It's the up candles or collective up candles, bullish candles here before the purge on liquidity. You'll see these on my chart in orange to show that it's a breaker candle. In this instance, you would wait for price to close above the breaker candle. You would place your limit order. It tags you in here. You can put your stop below the breaker block, which also incorporates this swing low here. And once again, you know, you're aiming higher. Or you can wait for an expansive phase like this one here, and then you can find the clear and obvious gaps. Yeah, and once you've shifted structure, you can be a buyer here. Again, your stops would be below there. All three entries in this particular case are similar, all right? So just overlaying those same principles as we go down, as we look into, we're just going to rip through some more here. Crypto G, or GII, short ICP. Take a look at that. Just going to take a quick sip of tea. Now we're going to take a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, total 3, and then we're going to rip through this list of coins. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. But that's basically the plan outlined there for Bitcoin. Hopefully that was clear. Now, here, Bitcoin dominance. What have we got here? Clear support resistance level. Again, don't make life complicated for yourself, guys. If you're really struggling to do these things with lines, I see people, you know, with lines going like, oh, it's kind of there, it should be here, but then I need that in here as well. So is it that? Is it this? If it looks like it's an area, just draw it out as an area, right? If it looks like it's a line, keep it as a line. I mean, that's really neat as a line. Resistance, 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 deviation, resistance. Price closes above, retest, boom, long. So keep that as a line. You hear that price is coming back into that area again. You know, ultimately, what we want to see here, or what I want to see, is I wanted to see Bitcoin take its all-time high again. I wanted to see this move. I then want to see Bitcoin dominance start to turn around when ETH has a really hot run. So we're going to take a look at ETH in a minute. I think that's consolidating lovely. I think when that thing starts to explode, we want to see Bitcoin drop down and consolidate, you know, above the previous all-time high, getting ready for another leg higher. You know, and then I think we see alts really, really start to catch up. So that's what I'm really excited about at the moment. But here on Bitcoin dominance, we can see ultimately, you know, over the last kind of 3-4 days, we've had that nice resurgence after the pullback. Bitcoin dominance has been strong. Deviated this level again. You know, look at this strong body candle. We had a long upside wick here, right? So you're waiting to see price hold up. This isn't a tradable chart, by the way, but the same rules apply. You know, we're holding this bullish gap at the moment and we're moving up. What I want to see is Bitcoin dominance back down below this line here, taking us back down into the kind of mid 50 region. Then, you know, really seeing that sell-off start to ensue as we look at the total chart. This is what I've got my key kind of what my eyes are on at the moment. You know, this bearish order block here, which has been perfectly respected, you can see by the body of these candles. This is our bearish gap. I do them sometimes on the show in bearish for red, green for bullish, but ultimately I'm actually just kind of using these as gray on my chart, so they're not so obtrusive. But, you know, we just want to see total 3 close back above this. Then I think we take out these, and then I think we're really starting to moon. So what we want to see here is like the counter correlation of that, right? We want to see resurgence in the total 3, a drop in Bitcoin dominance. Then I think we really see some aggressive alt plays start to come in. Right, okay, so that's that. So let's go and take a look at Ethereum, yeah? So we can see here ETH still kind of battling with this key resistance up here, which for me has been really, really nice and clean. This is the area I want to see taken. Ultimately, strong closes, retested that above, and we move higher. Now, obviously, this isn't all-time high territory, but this move over here is lovely and efficient on a daily scale. What do I mean by that? What I mean is any of the gaps like this one have been rebalanced. That means that look how price respected that, for Christ's sake. Look. You know, the bodies just couldn't get above it, just the wicks. But it's been rebalanced. Yeah, it hasn't been inverted, but it's been rebalanced. These gaps have, you know, even this one's is kind of 50% here. What does that mean? Well, it just means that what you're presented with, or what price is presented with as it comes up here, is just all this beautiful liquidity that it can chase, right? And they should all be green, really. But, you know, it's just showing that if price then wants to break out, when it does go, it will just take these areas so aggressively. Look at how price moves, right? Look at this. This is a great example down here, right? So look what happens. Look at all this balanced price action. See how there's not really many gaps in here? So once again, if we look at it as prices on this corrective move lower, we can see, again, you'd want these to be in green, ideally, to just highlight this fact, right? And you get this gap up here, which we'll just draw in here. Yeah, but these highs are all drawing price higher. So what happens? Price takes liquidity, yeah? Look how it fails to displace below that. It's telling you that price just can't force its way down, that the buyers are stepping in. Then what happens is you have this move up that takes the key liquidity here. Price starts to correct back down, and then you get this run. Look how aggressive this run is, yeah? Why? Because if we look across from here, price takes that first, but then look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until it gets to here. It's only when it gets to this gap that it starts to consolidate again. But look at the low of the gap and how it's respected. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking for here. So when I'm looking at ETH, right, then I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, the objective's really, really clear for me here on a daily scale. I want to see ETH above this. Once we get above this, yeah, and price comes above, we get that nice close, then we get that bit of consolidation in here. When we get that breakout, right, that then is we have that big run here, then we want to see that consolidation on Bitcoin, and then we want to see alts starting to really run to catch up. That's what I think we're going to look at. However, currently on this scale, let's just drop this down a little bit on the time frame. This was obviously our prior plan. Let me just get rid of these. We got, again, you know, these key breakouts, these key resistance areas that we're looking at here. That's all we were watching for in here. You know, you're just taking these areas, you're looking for these key areas of resistance to turn support. Then you're looking for them to hold. Ultimately, when they get violated, they come back down. We got our sweep of this level. We got a beautiful fast recovery, and we've just been kind of trading up aggressively since. But we're just showing a little bit of caution while we're in here. So with ETH, this is a little bit more interesting here, right? Because this bullish gap here was just closed below. So this is now going to tell us a lot. This is now a gap inversion. That means that this should act as resistance. So in 3 hours and 20 minutes from now, unless we close back above this here, my expectation is that ETH is reaching a little bit lower. Now we've got a lot of liquidity resting down here that we can see in these clusters. Price loves to come down and engage with these. So, you know, any move down into this region, if we get it, I think could be a really good buying opportunity. Ultimately, as we just discussed previously, I'm just going to be looking in here for that key kind of resistance area. Let me just hide these for a minute. Right. Bearing in mind that this is a key high time frame order block here as well, right? I think this is our daily order block. Yeah, down close candle closed above. Price came in. Actually, we're going to get that there because I'll tell you for why. Price came in and closed well below the 50% of this, violating it. So I'm kind of more interested in finding things on a lower time frame that have a little bit more relevance, and something just jumps out and just slaps you in the face here, right? Look at this long downside wick. Look at this wick. Look at this wick. Look at this wick with the data we've got in front of us. Now what I want to do is look left and say, well, if this is all support, what was offering resistance? Yeah. And for me, I can go back as far as you want, right? But I'm just looking even in recency. See these upside wicks here? Just look for an area, right? Just even if you use a horizontal line, yeah, which you can find here on your toolbar. If you put a star next to it, it will pop up on your little fast toolbar here, yeah? Then you can keep that somewhere if it's something you use a lot. So if I'm looking at the downside wick, just mark that wick up. And then you say, oh, okay, actually, you can see these wicks here as well were resistance, support, support, support. So now I'm going to get rid of that. And I say, okay, well, it's probably more like a box. So if I allow for these wicks over here and I just anchor to that, and then I say, okay, well, what area kind of allows for all of that? Yeah. Even just roughly like that, if I just allow for these 3 wicks here, and it's how I draw these support and resistance areas, right, on the higher time frames as well. I'm kind of looking at this and going, okay, that's really interesting, right? Because what happened here? Resistance, close above, retest, expansion. Yeah. Support, deviation, back above. And this is the move I really like here, because price just closed underneath this here. But then, you know, once we break structure to the upside here and we violate that gap, this is when we're saying to ourselves, all right, this has now got some legs to it. What do we want to see hold? Well, quite simply, if this is the last down close candle before we had the expansion, then this ultimately becomes the order block here. We overlay those two and we say to ourselves, bullish order block, respected, huge pump. So where do I want to see price react? Here. This is the key area for me on ETH, all right? And it starts around 3864 down to the swing low, which is about 3826. Okay, this area here. If we start seeing strong displacement below that and we start to consolidate, yeah. So again, strong move below and you see price start to consolidate or spending a bit of time here, then the chances are the moves to the downside, all right? If you see price come into this area and recover it pretty quickly, then the chances are that this again is a deviation to sweep liquidity below these lows and price is going to move higher. Okay, so remember to make sure you're paying attention to what the candlesticks are telling you. Okay, so that's kind of enough of the education side of it and that away. Hopefully this kind of just gets you guys into my level of thinking on this, all right? Why I've been showing a lot of caution coming into these areas. The same with Bitcoin. Doesn't mean that I'm not super bullish. Of course I'm super bullish. I'm not an idiot. But it just means that there's places that you want to be more bullish and other places that you want to be a little bit more conservative. So we're now going to rip through in the next 20 minutes or 15, because I've got a call with somebody shortly after that. We're going to look at ADS, MCRT, Sushi Link, IOTA, Namzu, if we can find it, Doge and ICP. All right. GGBG. Hello, mate. I didn't see you sneak in there. How are you doing? Sorry, just looked at that. Captain 94 will certainly try and cover AVAX for you as well, mate. Just catching up on the comments here, and I'm really going to rip through this ZRX if we get to that as well. Oi, Savaloy, how are we doing, Gordon? Examples. ZX Robin, ping me this question in the Discord, mate, and I'll take a look at that for you later on today, my friend. Soul as well. Sorry, guys, I've completely fallen out of touch with the comments here. It does like to mess. Yeah, it does. Absolutely. You're right, Robin. But the key thing with this is, like any support and resistance level, while it might trick us in one direction, the great thing about systems like this is if, say, for example, it closes below the FVG and we think, God, we got to go short, if it then comes and closes back above and violates it, you can be pretty certain it's heading the other way. So treat it like a deviation of a key level. Right, now we're going to really rip into these guys. So, let's get ourselves onto here. So ADS, I really want to kind of talk to you guys about this because it really, really excites me, this project. And we've been talking about this since, I think it was about mid-October, right? So we came into this around about here and we were looking for exactly this. We were looking for this consolidation here to hold, right? Which we got really, really nicely. And then, you know, obviously we've been handsomely rewarded for that. I do not think by any means that this is done here. Strong breakout of this area here. We're holding this area nicely. Bullish order block set down here. Looking at this on the 4 hour, look, this has just got the cleanest range. Yeah. So it's actually, I'll show you this more on the hourly. The upside wicks here is absolutely fine, relatively new token, so you expect it to be a little bit of liquid. But look what happens. It keeps getting these rejections. This is people selling off at the all-time high, right? All-time high, sold off, all-time high, sold off, all-time high, sold off, all-time high here, sold off. But look at the strength it's showing. Look how it's starting to stick to this area here. It feels to me like this thing is really looking for a breakout soon. So again, on ADS, I'm hugely bullish on this project. So, you know, for people that don't know about it, this for me is one of my favorite areas. This is the area that is really key for adoption. This is key for disruption, right? So it's from a company called Alchemy who are trying to disrupt the current ad marketing basically, you know, it's monopolized by giants like Google, Meta, people like that, right? And actually, it's hugely inefficient and really, really ripe for disruption. Their idea is to kind of allow token holders to access real world yield. That's all derivative from fiat as well. So, you know, you've got that kind of safety blanket or element to it as well. It's hugely aligned with the real world asset narrative that we got on here as well, deep in as well. I just think it's got this exciting storm building around it, right? And no matter how much it keeps trying to get pushed lower, really wanted this to come back and retest this area here and just buy a lot more. I couldn't. And this isn't financial advice, but when you see charts like this, you know, ultimately you've had this big expansion, you've now got this consolidation breakout here, I think are going to be just super, super aggressive. So it's a ticker I would recommend having on your watch list, even if it's nothing more than to watch how the price action's kind of taking place on it. But for me, this is a long-term investment as well, right? So something I'm really, really kind of, really, really aligned with. I like what the team are doing over there. You know, the more I research them, the more I have my team look into them, the more and more impressive it is. So highly recommend checking that one out. Just a beautiful example of a range compression. And now ultimately we're now looking for that, you know, that second stage of expansion, which should be certainly very aggressive. ADS, exactly right, mate. Alchemy, really, really, really good guys and girls over there. Okay, so let's take a look at MCRT. Did I do this one on here, or where was the one on here? There we go. So MCRT on the daily, what do we got? Well, daily's being held back by this bearish gap. All right, so let's just pop that in there. That's the key thing. Really, on a scale from this, what do I think would be a good likely thing to happen here would be this on a daily scale. Run this, close back above this, flip this to support, and I think this thing can really fly. On the 4 hour, again, just looking for kind of lower time frame versions of the same thing. If this is going to be the draw on liquidity higher, we want to see what's going on at these kind of lows, and we've got equal lows here as well. So we can all of a sudden start to see, you know, this really building up. Equal lows here. We want to see price again deviate these areas, climb back above it, and then start to make moves higher. I think we've got a large untested order block down here as well. I think this whole area is ripe for price pushing into and looking for long positions. I would just wait for some lower time frame confirmation in and around this area down here, which is around 0.001320, 0.001346. Sushi. Here we go, old friend Sushi. Let's have a look. So on a daily scale, what are we looking at here? I mean, we can see what's supporting the market here is this bullish gap. All right. So if we've got support coming in from that, not really much else to write home about here on the daily scale in terms of what's capping the market. Price kind of finds itself below this daily high here as well. That's something to consider. That's kind of capping the market at that high. Price hasn't been able to get in close above that. That's something to certainly be aware of. Yakuza Kana, how are you doing, mate? Good to see you. Again, on this level, right, I think you start to really see, you know, all of these upside wicks being in here as well. So if we're looking for a key point of resistance that we want to come and break, then it's here. So I think we want to wait for price to get up here for the safe or for the safer entries. And you want to just see price ultimately take out some form of liquidity when it does and have that nice, powerful expansion above here. So again, things looking primed and ready to go off. Link, now I absolutely love Link, the Link Marines. Hardcore, old school soldiers, one and all. So let's just take a look at where we are with Link today. This thing just had this beautiful, strong resurgence, right? Look what happened here. Bullish gap, respected, held, price pushed up. What do we got now? We violated this bearish gap. That means that that's an inversion. That means this whole area should now act as a really nice, strong support, along with a few other bits and pieces. That order block here, which has now been confirmed as price has closed above it. What else do I love about this? It swept liquidity and delivered from a bullish gap and inverted this. That tells me this is a very high probability order block. If we revisit this area here, I will be looking to be an aggressive buyer. All right, again, not financial advice, that's just me. And here's the other area that we want to be interested in, or I do, is this other daily gap. So forget about this for now, that's played out, but just to show you how well that happened and how well respected it was. Now we've held this area, we've done the same thing. We've had this expansion, we've taken liquidity, we've set the bullish gap here, and we've set the bullish order block here as well. I expect this area to hold. This for me is buy a town. This is where I really want to get involved in this. And in terms of what's capping the market, again, it's currently this high. Now, price is trying to move above it. Please do remember that this is a daily high, so you would require a daily close. Yeah, in the same way that, look, when this one happened here, yeah, we can see here that this was capping the market. Resistance, 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 closed above. Now we want to see this area hold. There's a lot of confluence in this area for Link. But ultimately, if it's looking to run really hot from here, I'd like to see it close above this level because resistance, 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 current resistance, close above here. And I think we can come up for these highs before we do anything else. I don't need to go on a different time frame there for Link. The daily is just too clean. IOTA, just for a little bit of old school flavor. Let's have a look at our friends over at Binance have got with this one, shall we? So on the daily, this one's interesting. Goes back to what some of the earlier tokens we looked at, right? Where actually we've got a bearish gap here that's suppressing price currently. All right. So again, you know, we really want to see price back above this here to have this violate. So a daily close above it, turn this area to support. The key swing low that we're looking for is here. That's 0.3275. So let's drop onto the 4 hour here, see if we can get any other information that we want. Now, price could react from this low here. I don't want to say it's doubtful, but I mean, you know, what we want to look for are reasons as to why it would, because, you know, ultimately it's just an internal low there. So if we put on our Fibonacci, we see we're at the golden pocket plus the 705 to 79. This is a key buying area here. We're aligned with this bullish order block that's in here as well as, you know, one of my favorite things that you'll probably very soon get tired of hearing me say if you're a regular, which is a gap inversion, meaning this was a bearish gap, closed above it, becomes support. This is where we're looking to hold here. All right, we want to see this area hold and push up. Ultimately, we either start getting some bids in here, bids filled in here, and we see that resurgence, or I think we're kind of making a move a little bit lower down here towards that swing low on the daily scale. You know, also we could be looking at the 0.75 level getting tested. You know, those things do often have a really, really good run through on price. So that's where we are on IOTA. Namzu? No, I didn't think so. So unfortunately, Namzu token, I haven't got a trading view ticker for it, so I can't take a look, I'm afraid. Doge. Here we go. Look at all the Doge bans that we've been having lately. So Doge broke out of this channel. That was the key support we were looking at to hold. It didn't hold, deviated, got back below, holding off again, having a massive battle with this support and resistance level here, by the way. Look, it came above, closed above, retested, but ran out at the first point of liquidity. Again, look how well respected the bottom of that channel has been. Then we found support here again. What do we do? Took liquidity again, closed underneath. What have we done again? Found resistance here. Now, as we move further down here, one thing that's worth saying is we notice that the gap becomes a little bit bigger until we get back to the channel. So I'd be looking for some kind of sweep here. I think something maybe below this low. Yeah, to see price come down and take that out. Sweep this low, get ourselves back above here. And that would just be a delight, right? Because we're down here, reclaim this, consolidate above here on the lower time frames, watch for that breakout. Then obviously as we extend the channel up here, obviously that's a terrible line, but we can see that we've got a little bit of extra room to go. You know, ultimately we want to be climbing back in this channel. And then from there, I think we can really start to run pretty hot, right? But this has been a really, really good channel here on Doge, just on a daily scale. There's not really much else to say other than, you know, we've got this big bearish gap that's suppressing price, but I would look at this much more as a kind of 4 hour play, taking it level to level and looking to kind of build an average into this one as we move higher. ICP is another one here. Let's see, we've got about another couple of minutes, guys, before I have to shoot off. So let's have a look. ICP looks nice here on the daily, right? Getting nice support here from the daily gap. Again, if we close below this gap, one of two things is going to happen. We close below the bullish gap here, it becomes an inversion, meaning that turns purple, and then we target liquidity resting below those lows, right? If we close below this, but then have a sudden resurgence and close back above it, violating it, then I will be pretty certain that the next target for us is this high at 14.174, followed by this high over here. I'm not particularly concerned about this bearish gap here because we've rebalanced it with this high. Now, in terms of slightly more aggressive plays, we can see here, whilst we're holding this, it looks like this can be the option for us. So while we're in here, let's just take a look at this. Say we get ourselves back above this, consolidate above here and make a run on that. Just to quickly put this on the hourly, I think something else we can see in here, it just really struck me, as this collection of downside wicks here. Right, so I think this is a key support and resistance level here on the short-term wire. Consolidation here for the breakdown, resistance, resistance, closed above, retest, support, 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 close below, retest, sell off, deviation, closes below, retest, sells off aggressively. So again, using this to catapult us above this level here to consolidate, and then I think we move up from here. Like I say, daily closures below this, I think we're going to start to look to target the liquidity below these lows. AVAX. See if we can quickly get another couple in before we are done. Here we are. Love AVAX, one of my favorite ones to intraday trade. Okay. Again, AVAX holding this quite nicely on the daily. We could move lower into this daily gap that's a little bit further down as well, by the way. So while we continue to hold this, I'm absolutely fine. Again, I'm not going to be bearish whilst we're holding a bullish gap. Maybe we move down into this lower one here because we have rebalanced this, but ultimately, you know, I'm not going to take that on until it's violated, which it hasn't been. So a couple of things we can do here. We either want to see price back above this area. Yeah, again, even if we're just looking at this on the hourly, we can see from the wicks that we've got here that there's a key support resistance level here. Yeah, if I just get rid of that for a minute. Resistance, resistance, support, support, close below, retest, resistance, retest, resistance, retest, resistance. Back above this, strong close, look for the area to retest, and we move higher from here. ZRX USDT. This is going to be the last one we're going to be able to cover, I'm afraid, guys. Apologies if we haven't got around to your token. Let's just take a very quick look here. I need to make sure I'm primed and ready for my next engagement, and then to get in the charts and really kind of start finding some more of these opportunities ready to run. Okay, so similar to some of the other tokens, we can see we've got a daily bearish gap suppressing price at the moment, which for me means that the likelihood is that if we're moving lower, we're coming down into the 0.5092 area. What would make me change my mind on that? Well, we have clear air up until here. Why do we have that? Because the gap has been balanced to here. This actually looks really nice at the moment on the 4 hour because we're holding a bullish gap here. Right, so think of it like this. If that gap here has been rebalanced to here, I'm interested in the area, but I'm actually not expecting a reaction until we start getting above here, because that's where the, that's where the area is that still needs to be rebalanced. So in here, if we start to get a strong resurgence at this level on the 4 hour, I don't want to see price really close strong below that. Would like to see it wick and come back above. Then I think we could have an opportunity to move higher here as well. If we want to highlight a key area of support and resistance here, it's a little bit trickier actually. But what I would focus on, I'm just going to hide that for a moment, is if I look at the downside wicks here and then the upside wicks here, we can see that there's been a really key kind of pivot exchange at this point, right? So if I draw them across to here, right, why have I chosen those? These long wicks, the bodies are supported here. Downside wick, support, support, support. Strong close below, resistance, resistance. What happened here? Strong close above, price runs away. Ultimately, support, support. Deviation, retest, price sells higher. Support, price sells higher. Now we've closed below this here. Unless we have some kind of reaction and quickly get back above, yeah, small consolidation here, little liquidity sweeping away. Then ultimately, I think, as long as we're trapped below here, I think the likelihood is that we move in to this consolidation area down here, certainly, but also to some of these untapped swing lows. All right, guys, look, it's been a real pleasure being back with you. Do you know what? I'll do two very quick little insights. I'm not going to be able to do TA on it because I'm due on this other call, but I am invested in both. And I've been very vocal about this on FWOG. These are my levels. I want to see this consolidation area, this support resistance area here hold, which is currently doing quite nicely. If not, I think we move down a bit lower. I'm a buyer here and I'm a buyer here. And then on virtual as well, this thing's just tearing faces off right now. So it's very, very difficult to know an area to get involved. But any pullback towards 2.55 region, I'd be a buyer as well. All right, legends, thank you so much for your time today. It's a pleasure to have you on it. 2,500 of you live with us again. What an absolute dream. Don't sleep on the Burb Nest memberships. You can find information down in the description below if you want to come and trade with me and a professional trading team that have been absolutely wildly profitable in an environment that's based on education. Everything is transparent and everything that we do is open for all of our members to see. Every trade that's taken, our P&L at the end of every month. You've got a team of professional traders and educators, as well as a wonderful community sat there. Please don't hesitate to get in touch. All right, you can find all the information down in the description. Have a wonderful week ahead. I'll be back with you live on Wednesday, and members will be in our live trading sessions tomorrow from a slightly earlier time that will all be announced a little bit later on, so we can make the most of these conditions. Have a fantastic week, you absolute legends. Be safe, be smart, and if I missed your ticker today, I do apologize. Come and grab me on Wednesday and we'll take a look at it then. Take care, legends. Bye-bye.